Good morning, everybody. My name is Amanda McCordic, and I am a Holy Fire Karuna Reiki Master, and I'm also very long-winded. So I am going to try to get through everything that I hope to. I've even got an old school clock to help keep me on task. And yeah, so I want to start by thanking you all for being here. This is our first annual New Year, New Energy celebration. And as a community, a Dragonfly Reiki community, we decided to come together and help anyone who wanted to start the new year on the right foot in energy, in healing, and in community. And I thought the best place to start with all that would be kind of an introduction to who we are and how we became. Before I jump into that, though, I do just want to invite in the energy. I invite in all the symbols I have now or may ever have, known or unknown, named or unnamed, just to guide, direct the next 2 days, and certainly anything that I do. We are guided by the universe. I always say that Dragonfly Reiki is the universe's project, not mine. I'm just a cog in the whole wheel. And I want to express my gratitude to the practitioners, to the Reiki Masters who have signed up to present over the next 2 days. Um, it's a community, and I could not do it without them, without their patience and their faith. And they're just beautiful, warm light. So I want to thank all the practitioners who are donating their energy to all of you. And I want to thank you guys. Some of you, I recognize some of the names, so I know many of you are seasoned Reiki masters. And I know that a lot of you are completely new to it. And maybe you've heard about it, you're not really sure. That's okay. In our community, skeptics, polite skeptics, are welcome. Um, I know for me, when I started, that was a huge, huge thing for me that I was allowed to question. So please question. Look for what feels right. And if something doesn't feel right or in alignment, then maybe it's not for you. So I'm going to start. There's going to be kind of three sections to this. The first is going to be a very, very high level overview of my life. And, well, not my life, how I came to Reiki. Someday I suspect there'll be like a 7-part mini series on my life. But that's not what we're here for today. Um, so I'm going to start with how I came to Reiki. It was 2019. I was a divorce lawyer who had my own firm, and I had developed the specialty of high conflict divorces. You know, those divorces that you hear that are nightmares that go on for years and years and years. People would come to me to end those. And so it was high conflict work. It was so soul draining. I also did a lot of work with abused children, abused women. Um, I really felt at that period of my life that it was my obligation to solve every problem that came through my life, came through my path. I was also married. I've been married for many years since I don't even know how old, in my 20s. I got married to my first husband, Matt, and he brought with him a son who came to live with us full time when he was 9. His mom was actually murdered. So he came to live with us 9 days before our daughter, our first child, our only child together, was born, Amelia. So we went from no kids to 2 kids in a week and a half, and we moved in the middle of that because our first house wasn't big enough. My husband was very charismatic. He loved to party. He always had an entourage. He was generous, and he was kind. He also had severe mental health issues and addiction issues. His certainly the whole time that I knew him. I was his bartender. Bartended during university to put myself through university, and that's where I met him. So I knew what I was getting from the beginning. There was no maybe. He was a functional alcoholic for the entirety of our relationship together. Um, his mental health challenges would increase as the years go on, as would his addiction issues. And in the end, he became very addicted to cocaine. So in 2019, back to my story, uh, I had a lovely assistant who I cared very deeply for. She was my right hand lady, and she was in an unhappy marriage, and her husband didn't show her a lot of affection or gratitude, and certainly didn't acknowledge birthdays or anything. And so I decided that I wanted to do something special for her birthday. And I kind of asked her, and she said she'd always wanted to go to a psychic. And so I was like, okay. So I booked a psychic, um, randomly. And it was relatively, it was reasonably priced. Unfortunately, something happened in that psychic's life, and she had to cancel her tour. And my assistant had been so excited that I was very committed to finding a replacement. And so there was this other psychic coming through town, and she was very high regarded, but she was considerably more money. And I don't know if I would have spent the money in the first instance. And so I booked this psychic, and that was in the fall of 2019 when she was coming through. And 2019 was a really hard year. After years of kind of escalating abuse from my husband, I had finally left him, but not really. So me and the kids had moved into a condo, but I was still talking to him daily. I was still trying to manage him. I was still trying to keep him healthy and make sure he was drinking enough and all that stuff. Um, and it hadn't been lost on me that I was spending all of my time helping women, or a lot of my time helping women get out of very dangerous situations. And I knew that the situation I was living in was equally, if not more dangerous. I won't go into the nitty-gritty of that, but there were many, many nights and mornings where I really thought, expected even, that it would end with him killing me. Um, so we went to the psychic, and I thought it was going to be a fun thing. We'll go to lunch, we'll each go see the psychic, and then we'll get together and we'll tee-hee over what the psychic said. We went in individually, and I think pretty quickly I knew that it was not what I expected it to be. The psychic we went to was Christy Flynn. She's still around. You can actually book her online now. She's wonderful. Um, she looked deep in my soul in a way that I wasn't expecting. And she was so good at telling me who I was, what my personality was, and what was going on in my life. And she's a psychic medium, so she also talked about my family members who had passed who were there, and she described them with accuracy and little nuanced things that a Facebook search wouldn't tell you. She also told me, and again, I expected a fun little afternoon that was going to end in apps and drinks. Uh, she told me that I couldn't save my husband, and that he was going to die. Uh, Not in years, in months, maybe a couple of years, I guess. She said maybe a couple of years, but we were talking in months, not years. And she said that I could delay it, as I had been doing. But if I held on too tight, he would take me over the edge. And when she said that, I knew it was true. It was something I had worried about for years. And it was certainly something I hadn't told anyone. The second thing she told me as I was leaving is she actually took my hand. And she said, if you forget everything else that I've told you and ignore everything else, you need to go find this lady named Pam Allen LeBlanc. She doesn't live too far from you. She is a Reiki master. And you need to book her first available session, not her second, not her third. I don't care what you need to cancel. You need to take her first available session. And you need to show up. This can't be something you cancel. And I was notorious for canceling massages, counseling, like any self-care. 80% of the time it didn't happen. And so she said, like, you need to do this. And she also said, she goes, this is something you can do from your desk. You can do it at a distance. And that got my attention. Because, I was really busy. I was working 60, 70 hours a week. Plus, I had two kids, one that was in dance, one that was in hockey. I had a mentally unwell husband who ran a very busy company. Like, I was busy. And so she said I could do it from my desk. And I thought, well, okay. So I left and I booked the first session, which happened to be about 3 weeks out. Put it in my calendar and didn't think too much of it. Um, in the meantime, I was still living through complete and total chaos, separated from Matt. It got really dark really quick. He tried to have my daughter, the kids taken from me through child welfare, or like child services. And again, I had done work with them for years. And I live in Fredericton, New Brunswick, just in Canada, just above Maine, very small. I knew all of them. So he tried to have my children taken away. He destroyed our house and the rental house that we owned that I had put him in after he destroyed our house. I spent many nights awake with I had moved into first a rental house, and I would stay awake all night because I was terrified he was going to show up and burn down the house. We eventually, very quickly, actually moved to a condo because I felt safer there. Um, and he was trying, in fairness to him, he was absolutely not well. He had quit cocaine use in August, so he was detoxing from that. And it became very clear to us that it wasn't just addiction issues, that there was some pretty deep mental health issues there. I adored him, loved him, still love him. Um, he was a wonderful, wonderful person when he wasn't trying to kill me. Um, and so we had reconciled. He had started seeing a psychiatrist. He had also started doing counseling. He had started some medication. And I was always so quick to return the moment I saw any glimmer of hope. And so we reconciled in early December. I still had my condo as a place that I could flee to because I had gotten tired of fleeing to random hotels. And funny, well, not funny, but side note, we had fled so many nights to hotels that I had a rotation because I didn't want any one hotel to know how often I was fleeing. So I kept my condo, but we reconciled. And I was in Toys R Us with my daughter, 1st of December. We were doing the Christmas Angel tradition. It's one of her favorites. So we were in the Barbie aisle debating which Barbie sets made the most sense for our various Christmas angels. And my cheap bra strap fell down. And I just put my hand in my shirt to pull it back up. And that's when I discovered an egg-sized tumor. Um, that was a Monday night. And it was big. And it was hard, and I don't know how I missed it for so long because it was big. Um, Thankfully, I was doing my nurse practitioner's divorce, so I had easy access to her. Um, Sent her a joke, told her that I had found a tumor, and if she wanted to complete her divorce, she better get me in quickly to figure out what it was. I knew it was bad as soon as I felt it. I shouldn't say at the time I felt it was bad. It was so big and so hard. As the universe planned, that next morning was my first Reiki session. So I found my first tumor and had my first Reiki session in about a 12-hour period. I know that that was no coincidence. I didn't know what Reiki was. I was doing it over the phone. I went to the condo I had a bath, got into bed, and thought, like, wonder what this is. Had my first session, went into it a skeptic, left it a little bit skeptical too. But in that moment, I had never, in that hour, in the 30 minutes, it was an hour, but I was in the energy about 25 minutes. I had never known that peace in my life. I had never felt that comfortable in my body. I had never experienced any of that before. And I didn't know what it was. And I didn't know if it was all just in my head, but I knew I needed more of it desperately. Um, it literally felt like a glass of water to someone who's dying of thirst. So I didn't know what it was. I had told her about the tumor. She had, you know, she had said that she had supported other people through cancer journeys if it was cancer, and we had agreed that we would start seeing each other every week unless she was teaching or I was in court. And so that's how my cancer journey and my Reiki journey started at the same time, and I see them hand in hand. Um, I moved through the mainstream medical. It was very difficult. It was over Christmas, so everything was delayed. I'm a person of action, so of course I just wanted to jump on and do everything. Everything came to a standstill for 2 weeks. Um, I had a biopsy. I ended up being misdiagnosed in that biopsy. They thought it was a grade 2, which is less aggressive. It was a grade 3, which made it more aggressive. Your grading sets your whole surgery schedule. So because they thought it was grade 2, they waited to do the reconstruction at the same time. So then we were working with a couple of different surgeons schedule, and um, it ended up being the end of February before I got my mastectomy. By then, my one tumor had exploded into 7 tumors. I made a lot of really crude jokes about how it was more tumor than tit, is what I used to say. Um, and I had everybody and their dog feel them so that they would know what they felt like. And my poor daughter was mortified, right? I'd be like, oh yeah, do you want to feel them? So I had a mastectomy in the end of February. In April, I met with my oncologist for the first time. That's how it works here. You have all your mastectomies and everything first. And that's when they told me that it had migrated into my bones, so it had metastasized, and that is considered a terminal diagnosis. That was on April 2nd, 2020. And I'll always remember because I remember thinking if it was April 1st, I would just think it was a joke. They told me that the average was 3 to 5, but that some go much faster. And then later they told me they expected that I would go much faster. They said it was so aggressive in the medications that they had would take time to build up in my system, and they just didn't think I would live long enough. They told me to eat what I want, do whatever bring me joy, close my business, and prepare to die. And I did for a bit. And then I thought, no, like I made the decision to build the life I wanted, whether I lived for 6 months or 60 years, to start loving myself, accepting myself, because we have been very successful. We started from no money. We we found a lot of success in, my husband's business was very successful. I was a successful lawyer. We have a big house. We have new cars. I got lots of jewelry. We went on nice vacations. So we had achieved all this, what society tells you you're supposed to do. We checked every box. Still miserable, still suffering. Um, and I decided to abandon all that and to start really getting to know myself and to start questioning why I felt, what I thought, what I thought. Because I'd always known that I was so much harsher on myself than everybody else. And so I decided to start putting myself first sometimes and to see what that felt like. So terminal cancer was my wake up call. Cancer wasn't enough. It needed to be terminal for me really to pay attention. And it has been one of the greatest blessings of my life. And I say that knowing that it could take me out. Um, you know, I I'm thankful for it. It's had its costs. I always joke that it cost me a nipple, but it's been worth it. So I'm running over my time, so we're going to speed up here a little bit just in the allotted time I had for my story. Um, so yeah, 2020 was spent getting to know myself, dealing with my mortality, thinking, dealing with my anger that I had at myself. My first instinct was to be angry. I thought, you stupid asshole. You had everything. And you put your energy into stuff that didn't matter. And now look what you've done. So I had a lot of anger and I had a lot of guilt. Um, certainly telling my daughter, you know, wasn't pleasant. She was 9 at the time, just before her ninth birthday. She was almost 9. And she literally said, I have 2 parents and only one of them can look after me. And you're telling me that's the one that's going to die? Yeah. I was like, yeah, kid, that's where we're at. So 2020 was a hard year, but it was also a beautiful year where I started to get to know myself. I started questioning why I felt the way I felt about things, why I felt responsible for everybody else's life, why I buffered everybody that I knew from the natural consequences of their actions, why I was a martyr. I was like a huge martyr. I started questioning it all, and it was a gift. My husband, when I got diagnosed terminal, really pulled himself together, and it was a beautiful 6 months, 6, 7, 8 months that we had together during that time, where he was really a rock. He was my rock. I hadn't seen him that functional in years. I did a bunch of stuff, which I won't get into. I got very focused. I went down a rabbit hole, focused on healing, anything that could help. I used to think if something, even if something helps only 1% or 10%, if I do enough of those, I used to think all the time, there's just no way the cancer can grow. Like I'm doing too much. I talked to my cells every day. I pictured myself and, literally on a platform talking to all my cells like I was their boss because I am. I was like, you're healing. Great job. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do. I'm so sorry for all the years that I completely abandoned all of your needs. We're going to make up for it now. And so that's really how I thought about 2020. Um, in November of 2020, I had my first set of scans since being declared terminal. I didn't really get the results of them until the January when my rat oncologist, said we couldn't find it. Basically, there was no traces of cancer at that point. Um, But just backing up, that summer, the summer of 2020, I had radiation. And if any of you have had radiation, you understand the exhaustion that comes with it. It's a really weird exhaustion. You can't watch TV. You can't do anything. And it's not even, you don't even really sleep. You just lay there existing. And for somebody who was a workaholic, was an active workaholic, and somebody who had dealt with my trauma with just keeping myself so busy that I didn't have a moment to think about it, and then would, fall into bed exhausted every night so I didn't have to think about it. That stillness felt like torture. And I was angry because I was like, if I only have a little bit of time, I need to make it count. And here I'm laying, and I literally would take all my energy to drag my body to the backyard where I would lay in the hammock, in the shade, because I'm not made for sun. Um, and I would lay there until it was nighttime, where I would either drag my body or my family would help drag me in to the house. And And I had continued to do Reiki each week with Pam, and Pam would record those sessions and send them to me. And so I started listening to those meditations on loop. And I had done the training by then. Was a Reiki master. No, sorry, I was a level 1 and 2. Became a master that fall. But I started listening to the meditations and the attunement on repeat. So I was in the energy for 12, 14 hours a day. And at the time, I was frustrated. But in hindsight, I see that that was a really crucial period for me and perhaps the most productive days and months of my life. Super thankful for it. So we found it in January that they can't see any signs of cancer. I'm feeling great. Um, Energy levels was good. My mental clarity was great. I returned to work. Um, During that 2020, though, I had started to accept that each person had to decide for themselves what they wanted for their lives. And that included my husband, who I had been guilting and coercing into living for years. And so in early January, we had a very open conversation where I said, I'm not going to guilt you anymore. I want you to heal. I want you to find the joy that I have, but it's your life. And I love you no matter what you do. Um, and I'm just going to pause to say this is a trigger warning. So we're going to talk about suicide for just a few minutes. So if you want to pause, if that's a trigger for you, I totally understand. Um, on March 29th, uh, 2021, my husband committed suicide. I will not go into the details here. I do in other places. Um, but I found him with a gunshot wound alive in our bed. Um, it took his body about a day and a half to finally accept that it could not go forward, and he did finally die. In the process, when we were doing organ donation, we found out, oh, sorry, first we found out that he likely had schizophrenia when they did the brain scans of his brain to figure out what was going on there. The neurologist indicated the whole frontal lobe was darkened out, which is consistent with untreated schizophrenia. My husband was adopted. We realized afterwards that his biological uncle had the same diagnosis at the same age. And then a few days later, or 24 hours later, when they were getting him ready for organ transplant donation, they realized that he had renal cancer, which was most likely metastatic. So his end was coming. Um, his body was just wore out. Matt's death was so much harder than me facing my own mortality. I had always suspected that it would end that way, but I could never have envisioned just how terrible it would be and how hard it would be. It was only a few days before our daughter's 10th birthday and 3 days before my 1 year anniversary of being declared terminal. Uh, the grief that hit was immense. It was also mixed in with the moments of real lightness and clarity and connection to him. It wasn't all doom and gloom. There were moments where I felt so connected and at peace. But I was socially exhausted. I retreated to my backyard, and much like the radiation exhaustion, I just laid there listening to Reiki meditations on loop. Spent a lot of time in the energy. Um, and that summer, that's when this idea of Dragonfly took root. I had immense gratitude for the Reiki. I knew that though my path was difficult, that it was made so much easier by Reiki, that it empowered me, that gave me perspective, it brought me peace no matter what was happening outside my life. And it was a rough time. I had two very traumatized children. My poor son, his mom was murdered, then his dad committed suicide. Um, my daughter, both my kids, are waiting, had prepared themselves for my death, and in the meantime lost their dad. We had My husband left me behind a business that was hemorrhaging money during COVID. I had my own law firm. It was difficult. Um, it wasn't all rainbows and lollipops kind of thing, right? I was doing Reiki all the time, but it was hard. And I was healing, and I had pushed so much trauma, like deep down. I was totally cut off from my emotions. I opened all that up and it was messy. And I cried and I snotted all that summer. Um, And I kept thinking about like how lucky I was that Reiki was there to help guide me through all of it. And I thought about what a miracle it was that I came to Reiki when I did. And I knew how lucky I was. And so the universe started, and I started bringing me these messages that, my path was for a reason. And I had this weird collection of skills, including being a serial entrepreneur. I have 7 businesses going as I sit here right now. I have a really high risk tolerance. I have that how hard can it be gene. So I have experience empowering other people. As an employer, it was always what I felt was always my job was to support people to be their best version of themselves, to figure out how they thrive and then set them up to work that way. And if that meant they left me for bigger opportunities, I was okay with that. I never, ever wanted to stunt anyone's growth. So I had that skill set, and I had some money, and I knew that I had a skill set that most Reiki masters didn't, or because of my not weird, my varied background and path. And so it started coming together. It started with this thought of, I wish I had done more Reiki during the hard years. All the nights I spiraled in fear and guilt and anger and despair. I wish I had been doing Reiki. I had continued to do my weekly sessions with Pam, but the reality was is Pam's a busy lady, and so she didn't have the availability to see me if I was having a rough Tuesday. And I thought, how great would it have been if there was a place where I could have easily gone to see who was available to work with me, a place where Reiki masters were verified and vetted, so I knew that they were real people, that they had the training, Um, Spiral less, do more Reiki is what I just kept hearing. And then I wanted to create a place where people could, yeah, easily go to find Reiki masters for the different parts of their journey. When it's hard to, I don't know that you can understand different paths until you've walked them. I'm comfortable talking about suicide because I've lived through that. Super comfortable talking about living with a terminal cancer diagnosis because that's been my reality for 6 years. And until you've walked those paths, it's almost impossible to understand them. You can empathize and you can support, but to understand them. And so I had this dream of finding a practitioners who had walked the challenges that I was walking. Yeah, I wanted to find a community. I had done lots of classes and I continue to do classes and I love them. And I consider them like little oases in the desert. And I'd have these wonderful 2 or 3 days experiences. And then it was like you're pushed back out to the desert to wander your spiritual journey, your healing path alone. And I wanted to change that. And I often thought about single moms, people who worked weird schedules like nurses, long haul truck drivers, who it was difficult to find Reiki masters during business hours. I wanted to make Reiki so easily accessible that if you only had the ability to do Reiki at 4 in the morning after you got done your night shift, because you know your kids are going to be asleep then, that there be a practitioner for that. And because of the time zones across the world, and because we do have Reiki masters now in every continent, there's always somebody available to give a session. And so that's what I was kind of dreaming of. And then for the practitioners, I had met all these wonderful, kind, beautiful people. But for a lot of them, they weren't offering their services because they weren't comfortable collecting money. They weren't sure about the technology. They didn't want to set up a whole website. They, had full-time jobs and kids and so I wanted to remove as many barriers as possible. I wanted to deal with the money so that that wasn't a hurdle. I wanted to create stages for different Reiki masters to shine. That's what today is. That's what this weekend is. These are just stages. I wanted to make Reiki more accessible to everybody by empowering more Reiki masters to share their light in whatever way aligns with where they're at in their life. So, no minimums, no maximums. You have time to offer 2 or 3 sessions a month? Great. The universe needs those 2 or 3 sessions a month. You want to do it full time? Wonderful. There is no wrong answer. It's whatever. I wanted to create a place where people could come and offer whatever they felt called to offer with support and guidance and community. And so that's where it started. And I thought a lot about the principles. What were the principles that were going to guide this community? And I'm just going to quickly run through them. So we are guided by the universe, not ego. This isn't about Amanda McCordic. This is about the universe. This is the universe project. I'm just fortunate enough to be one of the people bringing it to fruition. Collaboration, not competition. There is more than enough suffering in the world that needs healed. We don't need to compete. There is no place for competition in our community. We collaborate. Embracing each practitioner community member's true self. No judgment. This is not a place for judgment. Um, Everybody gets to be their authentic self, and we support them while they figure out what that is. Celebration of different paths and lineages. I am ICRT trained. I still teach under the ICRT. There's lots of other lineages out there. They're all welcome in the community. Different paths. I have people who, were born in absolute poverty, and I have people that have been born in wealth. Everybody's welcome in our community. Different religions, different nationalities. Everybody's welcomed, including the skeptics. Polite. We need them to be polite, but skeptics are welcome and even encouraged. We want you here. And so are people who have no money. Energy exchange is important. Money is just one form of energy exchange. It's not the only. So we want you in our community, even if you don't have a dollar to spend. That's okay. We still want you here. We're focused on your soul, not your money. And we can do that because we believe that we live in abundance. We know that we live in abundance. So we can be generous. There'll never be any pressure from Dragonfly, either for practitioners or clients. You should only do what feels in alignment to you. And I tell the practitioners all the time, if I ask you to do something and you don't think it feels right for you, please know that you're empowered to say no, thank you, not for me. And that's where it ends. Because nobody, including me, knows what's right for you. Just you, your spirit guides, the energy. So I stay out of that. We stay out of that. We're here to guide and support your path, not take it over. No one person is in front of the community. We aren't a triangle or a circle. This is a community circle. We learn and we grow. The most seasoned practitioners, the most seasoned Reiki masters, um, the most seasoned Reiki masters still have learned lots to learn. And they may learn it from a person who is their first day experiencing Reiki. And so we consider ourselves a circle, which leads to that point. No gurus. If you consider yourself a Reiki guru, we're not the community for you. And that's okay. You be you. You do what feels right for you. But we're not, I have no aspirations to be a guru, and that's not what we're about. As a community, we say yes whenever we can, and we believe in radical transparency. So I will always be open to questions, how things work, where money goes, what it's used for. And finally, the idea that we support all those who seek Reiki. Again, wherever you're at in your path, we have put our mind and our attention to creating many different paths to Reiki, many different paths to healing, and meeting people where they're at emotionally, financially, socially, spiritually. So I know many people who aren't ready even to meet in real time over Zoom or over the phone. They're just not ready for that. They're too closed off. That's okay. We created a whole massive meditation, Reiki meditation library. So the energy can meet you where you're at. You know, you can't sleep all night? Go listen to some meditations. Great. Um, yeah, we meet you where you're at, not where we think you should be, not where we think you ought to be or could be, but where you're at. And we accept that the universe has a plan for each and every one of us. So we're not there to meddle, we're there to support and empower. So I started it. I spent the summer in the energy, the summer of after my husband's death, uh, crying and snotting and also dating, which is a whole nother story. Um, uh, in our last conversation, I'm sorry, I just got a little sidestep here. In our last conversation, my husband Matt had said that he was going to send me a new husband, somebody that looked after me the way that I had looked after him. And I had scoffed. I thought like, man, he doesn't get it. And I was like, no, 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 thank you. Like, I am never getting married again. I am never living with anybody again. Like I used to think all the time, if I can survive this husband, I will never make that mistake again. And so I had kind of laughed and cried actually and said like, no, I will, no interest in that. And he said, no, I'm going to send you somebody. And I was like, yeah, okay, you send who you want. The door will be closed. And in fact, the night before I met he did send me somebody. His name's Brad, and we got married in 2022, and he's wonderful. And he loves me the way he looks after me as much as I let him look after me. Um, and I say all that to say is I was healed enough to accept all of that because of Reiki. Couldn't have happened otherwise. So I started in 2021, totally naive as to how hard it was going to be, um, but also full of a lot of doubt. I didn't think I was worthy of it. I kept saying, if you look back to the old videos, I'd say, I don't know why the universe picked me. You know, I live in the backwoods of Canada. I have no tech experience. I don't particularly enjoy tech. Um, I don't know why the universe picked me. I don't know if it's going to work. I spent a lot of time in doubt, and I'd have my little temper tantrum with the universe. Like, you told me to do this and it's not working. When is it going to work? And the universe would say, it will be ready when you are ready. Focus on your own healing. That was a hard lesson for me to learn. I'm a checklist deadlines kind of gal. So we started in 2021. I thought it would be ready in about 6 or 9 months. Um, it's been a challenge. We discovered we had to switch developers this last fall. We discovered that the site that was built was so large. I call it's like finding out your house has asbestos. And so we are in the process currently of building a whole new platform from scratch. After about $200,000 in, we are starting from scratch. And so that is in the process now and will be launched in the coming weeks. I'm super excited about it. So it has been a journey. I have met some of the most amazing, kind, beautiful souls in the world, and that in and of itself has been worth it. We have a core group of practitioners who are phenomenal and unique and just amazing. It has grown, even though that we've been plagued by sites and the site never has never worked great. There's always been problems. It's been like whack-a-mole. You fix one thing and two more issues come up. So that's the site that currently we go to right now. So please be patient when you're dealing. It is glitchy and we know it. The new site is coming soon. Um, but everything works, if not perfectly, with some patience. Everything works in our community, and it has grown. In the beginning, I envisioned, what I envisioned when I began to what we've done now is it's already grown so much, and I'm so excited to see how it's going to continue to grow. It occurred to me right before I started that, 20 years from now, they're going to have a little clip of me starting our first annual, and we're all going to giggle about, the technology and how I look and everything, and how amateur it all is, and I'm here for it. I can't wait. Um, so where we are right now, what we have as we sit here today, we have over 80 vetted and verified Reiki Masters from across the world in different lineages, all bookable. All, they choose their offerings, their prices, their time schedule, everything. The practitioners decide that, not me. So there are 80 fully bookable practitioners right now offering all kinds of different specialties from depression to LGBTQ to animals to terminal illnesses to you name it, medical Reiki, um, all kinds of really wonderful offerings. We have a really wonderful community calendar, which is a host of activities that make it really easy to bring regular Reiki into your life. About a year ago, the energy told me that we needed to expand how we offered Reiki to make it more financially inclusive. There's a lot of financial hardship right now, and Reiki's too important to gatekeep. And so the universe brought me a new format, and these are our community circles and our community experiences. And so they're $20 events that you can jump on. They're regular. We have them, some happen, every other week or every month. We have a host of them, and they have different themes like domestic violence, cutting cords, sacred misfits, medical Reiki, PTSD. There's a whole huge list of them. A fatherless daughter group for people who have complex relationships with their fathers, uh, group for, anyway, I could go on. I encourage you to explore them all. That's in our community calendar. We have regular free events because again, it's important for us that someone can start their healing journey without any money. We want you and we want to support you. So we have weekly shares. Margaret Mary does a Reiki share every Wednesday. We have a host of other regular free offerings that you can find. And then we also have a host of these $20 events. We also have workshops and classes and experiences and all kinds of things. Um, and it's a wonderful way for you to try a practitioner before you have that one-on-one session. Not every Reiki math. I'm not made for everybody. I swear I don't do hands-on. I'm all about intuition. I let the energy guide me. I'm not structured. I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. It's important that I am who I am so that the people who I am right for know me. They can see me. And so that is a great way for you to find and to try different Reiki masters. We also, so that we have the community calendar, and then we also have a whole membership program for people who are serious about bringing Reiki into their everyday life. We wanted to make it more affordable. So in those different membership levels, which I won't go through, you can find them in our website. We have all different price points. They come with different tickets to the community events. So, you get included in the price. You get free seats to those events. I also host different membership events each month. So those are groups where we come in. You can ask questions, you can ask for guidance, and then I put everybody in the energy. So that's included. You also get full access to one of my favorite parts of our community, which is the Dragonfly Reiki Meditation Library. This is a massive library that is growing as we speak. It's where our practitioners submit their meditations. We add music, we add graphics, and we label them so they can be searched. We have a whole library where you can go in and you can work on your health. You can work on. We have a whole Kid Reiki series about working on childhood trauma. We've got meditations for your kids. Amelia and the Magic Cloud is a bedtime meditation series that I created based on my daughter, and she helps me with it. She's 14 now, and our dog and our cat. We have those for kids. They're also available free on YouTube because I think bedtime is such a stressful, important part of people's lives. We made those free and available for everybody. Um, so that whole library is there, and it's part of my legacy, if I'm honest. I don't know. I think I'm going to live about another 60 years. Who knows? Um, but when I'm gone, my kids will still get guidance from me. My grandkids will still be able to go to bed hearing me. The grandkids, the chance of not getting grandkids is still a fear I have to work on. Um, but that's there for the people who love me, whether I know them or not, because I have so many people, wonderful people in my life. Um, and it's a way for me to help spread the impact of Reiki. So the meditation library is massive and it's beautiful and it's growing continuously. It's also, we also, again, because of our commitment to make Reiki accessible to everybody, we release one meditation a week on YouTube and through social media, so that again, if you're starting your healing journey with no money, that's okay. We got you. We also are using the meditation library to work with our corporate and organizations that we're collaborating with. So, for instance, we're working with we're doing some free training for a group that works with high needs kids in group homes. So we'll do the training with them, but we'll also give them free access to the meditation library so that the caretakers can also get some care and guidance and all of that. So the meditation library is serving many purposes for many people, and we know this is just the start. Um, we also have a free library with articles. We have classes, and the classes I'm really excited about. I've taken classes from different practitioners, and I'm thankful for all of them. Absolutely thankful for all of them. Um, but I did feel afterwards the class was over and everybody returned to their real lives, and I was left to figure it out on my own. And some of it was pretty profound, deep, dark things. And so part of what the energy has showed me is that, we're going to do education a little bit differently, and we're still figuring it all out. But every person that comes through our community that does a class, whether it's my class or Margaret Mary's class or Sarah Spangler's class, whoever's class, because we have many different practitioners offering their classes. Anyone that books their class through us gets a free 2-month Bounce membership, which is our middle membership. So that gets them 4 sessions a month in different groups. That gets them the meditation library. We also have a student lounge Facebook group for them to ask questions. And we're also starting in February office hours so that there'll be regular time when any of our students from any of the practitioners, any of the teachers can show up and ask questions. Um, and that's all there to support them, to help cement Reiki into your life. The amount of people I've heard that said, yeah, I took level 1 and 2 and never really did anything with it. Well, we're trying to help people get back to it and help really cement it. Because when you're consistent with it, it is powerfully transformative. Like literally 6 years in, I'm living with a terminal cancer diagnosis. I'm fine. Like life is good. Um, we're reaching out with corporations, organizations who work with animals, kids and youth, caretakers, all of that. And I say that if you have an organization, whether it's a business or a charitable organization, and you want to collaborate with us, reach out. I am here to help. Um, yeah, I'm here to help. We also have one of the other things I'm most proud about is we have the Dragonfly Reiki Scholarship Initiative, and also known in my house as two free seats. And so I got this idea, the energy, I guess, brought me this idea that, all too often Reiki is needed in the communities that are least able to access it. Like it's expensive to do Reiki training, worth it, but expensive and out of reach for many. And I have tried to leave every person, place, and thing I've ever come in contact with better than when I found them. Have I accomplished that? No, probably not. But that is always my goal. Um, and this is further to that. So it started with every class that I teach, I always had two free seats for scholarship students. And energy exchange is important. So I am a chronic overgiver and I'm healing that. Um, and so energy is important. So I don't want to give the illusion that this is just us giving things away. Our scholarship students pay it back with Reiki. So they give Reiki, they give free services to Reiki, they give to our Reiki grid, which is behind me. They work on themselves, which collectively helps the universe. They interact with us on social media. They give their energy back to the community. And the most important part of all of that is they make an agreement that if they ever teach, they will always have two free seats in their class so that the initial gift continues to grow and reach, again, those communities. So that's been underway for about 9 months. We have, you know, uh, terrible with numbers. I think we have about 14 people in the program right now. Um, and that's going to grow. So I'm really excited about that. And again, it's that waves of growing. I love planting seeds and then standing back and watch what happens. And the seeds that we're planting in that community, in the Dragonfly community, scholarship community, are just amazing. So I'm very excited about that. We also have a new Dragonfly Reiki Botanicals products that are coming out, which are high quality essential oils. I won't go into that. Sarah Spangler she has the education and she's leading that effort. So she's going to talk about that later today. And again, we have our new platform coming. So please keep an eye out for that. Um, and so how you can interact with us and become a part of our community. You can follow us on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, sign up for our newsletter. Uh, Again, each week we have lots of free stuff out there. So yeah, we have our Sunday, every Sunday there's a new meditation released. Every Wednesday we have Margaret Mary Share. There's lots of other free events if you look through our events. You can also, really, if you are thinking about taking a class with me or somebody else, look at the memberships first. You get deep discounts for the classes if you are a member, so it's actually financially cheaper to sign up for a membership first. Um, and yeah, so and again, all of that, there's no commitment, right? So if you sign up for a month, you don't have to sign up for 12 months. Sign up for a month, then you can cancel it after that. Just like practitioners, there's no contracts. People come and go as they please. Um, yeah, so look through the community calendar, see what calls you. Keep an open mind, be curious. I do have some classes coming up. So this coming Thursday, Friday, I have a men's only class. You can find information for that. Uh, the week after that, I'm doing the Holy Fire 3-day Reiki Master class, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I believe. Those are all over Zoom. They go from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you can't do the whole thing, they are recorded. So we can usually make pretty good arrangements there. And then I have a regular level 1 and 2 starting February 17th, which is a 2-day. I also host the regular meetings for the members, so you can check in there. And I'm going to be hosting a new event called Soul Check-In. And I don't know if that's up yet, but the Soul Check-In is going to be a regular time where I literally just come and put you into the energy 3 times so you can get messages from your higher self, from your guides in the universe. I'm equally excited for me as I am for people who are going to do it. So go wander through our site, keeping in mind that a new and improved one is coming. And please reach out wherever you are in your Reiki journey. Um, I am not as quick in response as I would like to be sometime. I think right now I have about 1,200 unread emails between all the different companies, but I love communicating and connecting with people. I love setting up Zoom calls to talk about for Reiki Masters or people who want to be Reiki Masters, what that can look like. And if you are, in fact, if you're like a level 1 and 2, you have to be a master to offer your services in our community. But if you are a level 2 and you want to offer services, reach out. I will work with you. We can figure out a way to make you a master pretty quick, so that you can offer your services. And if you want to offer stuff and you're just not ready, we find mentors. We can help somebody shadow. All that to say, Dragonfly Reiki is here to help you wherever you are on your journey. And I just want to thank you all. Yeah, to reach out. Thank you guys. I'm just gonna look at the messages now. Sarah Boy said this has been such a great introduction to Dragonfly community. I cried hard during your story. I believe I'm in the right place. You are. And if you want to hear more of my story, you can go. I've done quite a few podcasts. So if you put my name in, Amanda McCordic, a bunch of podcasts will come up, and someday it will be a 8-part mini series, I'm sure. But for now, you can listen to the podcast. And I would encourage you guys all to stick around for the other events. They're going to be wonderful. And thank you all. And I'm going to close it now so we can all get anyone who's coming needs to can get to the next session. Thank you guys.